Our family motto is getting our hands dirty and our heart broken. But getting your hands dirty means sitting with people, understanding their stories, doing the work, not sitting behind a desk and sending out, a check, but really showing up to the school. I talk a lot about, I don't read about Section 8 housing. I actually sit on the floors of the Section 8 housing to understand what these families are dealing with.
Welcome to Lean In With Lizzy. Today, I have my friend Kristin Andrus on the podcast, and you are going to love her. Kristin Andrus is a community champion, philanthropist, and advocate, focusing her passion and expertise on women, children, and refugees within and way beyond Utah. With over 100,000 combined followers on Instagram and YouTube, Kristin has built a platform that is not about her. It's about awareness and impact. Her insights and passion will make you both laugh out loud and move you to action. Kristin has recently launched her new initiative, Gathering for Impact, with the purpose of empowering women to use their unique strengths, abilities, and interests to impact their own neighborhoods, communities, and the world. You are going to leave this conversation inspired by Kristin's big heart and empowered to know what you can uniquely do to make an impact on your own life and your world. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kristin. We are so happy to have you on the show.
I am thrilled that you asked me. I've been loving your podcast. I've listened to every episode and I've learned so much. So thank you.
Oh, that is an honor, especially from a woman like you who is involved in so much good. And I feel like we can't get to the good fast enough already. I'm just like, I just want everything you have to share for everyone who's listening to just go right into their hearts. And so thank you for bringing this message, for honing this message down into a way that can be accepted and digested. So let's dig into it. But tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Yeah. So I am a mom of 6. I was a synchronized swimmer growing up. I spent my entire life waterlogged, chose to not try to go to the Olympics and make the Olympic team, but went to college and was in sales. And so had a successful sales. You're always selling, right? You're always selling something, even if it's good. And so had a successful sales career and met my husband, Jeremy, dated for way too long. We finally got married and have had a beautiful, fun, life and have these 6 kids. And I think if you knew me, you'd be like, she'll have 2 or 3 kids. I see a Christmas card with someone with 6 kids. And I'm like, what is she thinking? What is that lady? I'm like, oh wait, I have 6 kids. So somehow along the way, we had 4 girls and 2 identical twin boys who are just the best. But I was never the mom who could sit at home playing Legos on the floor. I always had to be out, involved, doing something out of the house. And so trying to kind of navigate that and create that balance along the way has led me to really interesting, fun things and a path that I didn't know even existed, 10 or 15 years ago.
So fun. I had no idea about the synchronized swimming. That is so fun.
Yeah, I still do it to this day. I'm 45 and it's I've just got to do one split rocket in the water just to prove to myself and my children that I can still do it.
So good. And so fun to take things that you love and keep them as part of your life. I grew up playing basketball and it still brings me so much joy going to basketball games, lights me up at 40. It's
exactly.
So fun.
Exactly.
So today you are going to be sharing a roadmap to help other women find what you just talked about.
Yeah.
The type of mom they are, the energy they have, their passions. How do we put this to work to do good in the world? Tell us where this started.
Yeah. So I would say probably about 10 years ago. And I've shared this story before, but I think it's really important because it caused my family to pause for a moment and decide what path, what culture we wanted to create in our home. So we had a successful financial outcome. And by the way, most stories don't start that way. Ours did. And I was on a spin bike, and I always talk about the spin bike and receiving this text from Jeremy that said transaction completed, meaning that this deal had closed. And it was, I think, Skull Candy at the time that we were there. And I thought, oh, this is going to be so exciting. And we've been waiting for this. But it was actually when I got to the parking lot and I sat in my car that the weight of responsibility and the heaviness and the stewardship of this change in our life fell upon me. And I remember calling Jeremy and saying, what are we going to do? I don't like consuming things. I don't like buying stuff. I find that it's an empty pleasure and very short-lived. And so I said, let's get the kids out of school. We have this picture of our kids sitting outside of the VOA with Harmon's grocery bags. And we said, let's go surf. And so we're at the Youth Resource Center and we serve food. And Jeremy and I looked at each other, and he's still working, head down, with Traeger now. And I said, this is our path. And by the way, it wasn't a path 10 years ago. It's a path we choose every single day. And when I talk about philanthropy and I talk about charity work or service or whatever you want to call it, it's rarely about the money. And actually my story and the story over the last 10 years of showing up in the community and caring about others and working with vulnerable populations has very little to do with the money. And it's never a story I tell. For me, philanthropy is using what I have at my fingertips to change my home, my school, my community, my state. And that is what having impact is. So I've done a lot of different stuff with the Policy Project, working on policy, filling backpacks for refugees, a lot of things over the last 10 years. But what I realize, and I look at what you're doing right now, is that there are these, I would say thousands and thousands of eager women who come to me and say, I want to be involved. I want to do something. I need a little bit more out of life. And so I took a couple of steps back and said, I was able to pause and say, what does this look like for our family? And create that intentional culture of service and of impact. And it's truly made all the difference.
So powerful. The same day of the transaction, you were in there serving.
Yeah.
I mean, such a statement. It wasn't even let's do that in a year or two.
Yeah.
Let's have fun for a minute.
Yeah.
It was like today we're showing with our time and energy and money, this is what matters to us as the Andrus family. So powerful. I love what you said about women coming and saying, where do I sign up? Give me a project. I've struggled with this. Two things you said I've actually struggled with. One, how to help women know what their thing is. Mm-hmm. And you're going to talk about that today. Yeah. And I'm so excited because it's an actual framework. Two, I've really struggled knowing how to help women see that they have time.
Yeah.
And definitely there are stages where that isn't true. Mm-hmm. Like there are times and seasons, maybe you have a child with a recent autism diagnosis and you are all in.
Yeah.
And that is consuming your family and should. Yeah. Or maybe you have an aging parent who's at home with you. Like there are times and seasons, but don't forget that service too. It may be to one person. And so it feels like, oh, but I don't have a platform and I'm not doing something big.
Yeah.
But don't forget, if your time and season is young kids and you literally say, I need to sleep and shower and I want to eat and eat something nice.
Yeah.
And that is all I have capacity for.
Yeah.
You are serving in your home.
Yeah.
Don't downplay those times. Now, for the rest of women who aren't in that phase, sometimes women come up and like, I don't have time. And you've said this because I heard you speak recently. Well, tell me how often you're on your phone.
Yeah.
Or speak to that.
It's true. And what I'll say about the autism diagnosis, the caregiving of the aging parent, is there actually are ways to use your voice and advocate, just tweaking a little bit of what you do. So the autism diagnosis comes and then you find other moms that are in the same space and you invite them into your home, to talk. You find other women that have aging parents, or there are so many little ways using what you have at your fingertips to change your little part of the world. That's all we're asked to do, right? And so what I would say is it doesn't have to be big, and I'll talk a lot about these small moments of serving, but I would think more about, instead of another to do, what can you tweak with what you're already doing? I think everyone's looking for a project. And I think instead of a project, we have to kind of go inward. We have to go back a few steps before we say, I want to go out. And I have so many women come to me and say that. And I'm so excited. And the eagerness in this age group, and I'd say from like 35 to 65 of women that come to you, are out there in the community that are saying, I have a little bit of extra time. My kids are all in school now. I'm an empty nester. My kids have left the home. I'm not really sure who I am now, but I know that I have something to give. So whether it's time, talents, ties, there's so many ways that's not around money. So I want to remind you again, as we're out in service, as we're out loving and helping and guiding, this is about using us and our hands and our feet and our voices of bringing people together. So the first thing that I would say when someone comes to me, because instead of saying, come to my rally tomorrow, go, fill backpacks for back to school, is I would ask women, what do you value? Like, what do you value as a woman, as a friend, as a mother? And what intentional culture, what is the intentional culture that you're setting up in your home? And where I want to move them is from a place of service as duty. As women, we are very duty driven and we have a lot of duty in our life. So you just mentioned a couple of things, a child who's struggling, an aging parent, and that can feel so duty filled. And I want to move women from a place of service and giving back as duty to joy. And that is absolutely what has changed my life. And that's how it changes our heart. That's what keeps us coming back. And so when we can stop and ask ourselves, as a mom, as a woman, what do I value? When I see families that value service, that they have felt the magic of serving at the Ronald McDonald House or, down at the local church or whatever it may be, when they have felt that magic, they value service. It's not duty. They don't show up because they're checking the box. They're showing up because it has changed their life. It's changed their heart. And so what I've also realized is families that haven't had that, it's not that they don't like service. It just isn't something that they value. So I think you need to step back and say, does our family value this? And if we do, are we showing up that way? You can say, I want to serve, I want to do this, but I'm not doing anything in my life to show that. So then I would ask, what do you value? Write that down. And you just write it down. Start taking notes. Sit down as a family. What do we value? And does our behavior actually show what we value?
Love that. And I love the thought of letting if you have children or a spouse, letting them weigh in.
Yeah.
I'm always shocked where I'm super passionate and I sit them down and the ideas they have, I'm like, I would have never thought of that. And the buy-in and the excitement that we all will feel and the joy we all will feel is so much better when we all come together. And then it also helps us niche down a little bit too. Cause it's like,
exactly.
You like that. There's 4 ideas. It becomes pretty clear what project would light us all up.
Yeah.
So I love that. Do that with your family.
Do it with your family. So then it's, what are we passionate about? And this is exactly, sit down with your family and say, what do you care about? What has touched us directly? What is meaningful because it's in our family? Is it depression? Is it anxiety? Is it, I was raised by a single mom? Is it, there are so many things that affect us directly that's like, I'm really passionate about this. I have a special needs child. I have whatever it is. So I think in a family council, in a family meeting, sitting down and saying, what are we passionate about? And then what are things that actually do not affect us, that we care about? Is there something in school that you see? Is there something that's happened in your community that's really affected you or your family? And it doesn't have to be something that you have so much passion about right now, but maybe it's, I'm curious about this. I want to learn more about this. I don't know a lot about teen mental health, but I realize it's a massive thing out there. I'm going to start reading. I'm going to start listening to podcasts. And so you may not have something that's like, ding, ding, ding. This is what we're passionate about. We care so much about single moms and we're going to show up for single moms. Now, some families do have that and you see them go with it and it's so cool. But I would say take the time to be curious. Take the time to figure out what you're passionate about. Don't go and sign up and show up because everybody else is doing it. You may find something that speaks to your heart and speaks to your soul that you never would have known about if you hadn't taken the time. What if in 1 year from now or 3 years from now, you're like, I know why I am here. I know what I want to lean in and care about because it is so important to me. And I took the time to be curious. Once again, not duty bound, but finding joy in the journey of figuring that out.
So powerful. And I think a little bit of experimentation along the way, like until we know, let's go do some of these projects. Like you said, let's get curious and learn about it. Go to a luncheon or just go volunteer with your family because that's never wasted time either. Yeah. I also think something I've learned along the way is the more all in you can be and present you can be when you're serving, that adds that element of joy. So if you're there just thinking, well, is this our family's project or is this the thing? Yeah. Instead of how can I serve the one human right in front of me and learn their story right now? And you mentioned your family motto. Can you share that?
Yeah. So our family motto is getting our hands dirty and our heart broken. And that means that with philanthropy, with service, it can be really easy to send the $5 to the school with your kid. It can be easy to send the check. It's actually a lot easier for us who have a little bit more than we need than the basics to just send in money and feel like we can check that box of like, we're helping out. But getting your hands dirty means sitting with people, understanding their stories, doing the work, not sitting behind a desk and sending out, a check, but really showing up to the school, showing up with the families, inviting people over. So I would say it's sitting on floors. I talk a lot about, I don't read about Section 8 housing or, look at opinion pieces on housing or SNAP or all of these issues that families are going through. I actually sit on the floors of the Section 8 housing to understand what these families are dealing with. And by the way, what I thought was the answer, or what I came in with, like, this is what you need to do, I quickly realized that is not the answer. As I sat with mothers, as I sat with kids, as I, went up to the mental health hospital, uni at the time, and Huntsman Mental Health with a teenager with suicide ideation, I realized my answers are not his answers, and that I need to sit with him, and he hasn't left his room in this long. And how long have I sat outside of his room and tried to talk to him rather than telling him what to do? So I have been taught over and over and over again, the kids aren't at school because they're lazy. The kids aren't at school because they don't have an alarm clock or a mom who gets out of bed, or anybody helping them get shoes that actually fit that they can wear in the snow. And so I am taught over and over again how little I know and how much we can learn from being present, like you talked about, and really getting our hands dirty. And getting our hands dirty means it's hard work. My kids sit in car rides with other teens that are talking about hard stuff, and I don't shy away from it. And then getting our hearts broken means not shying away from those stories, not shying away and saying, we don't talk about that, or that's not happening. It's saying this hard is happening. And by the way, it's happening right around us, miles around in our own neighborhoods. Our last project was childhood sexual abuse prevention, and it was everywhere and it was rampant. And it would be so easy to say, not in my family, not in our ward, not in our neighborhood. But the truth is it is. And sitting in those stories almost broke me. And talking to my kids, and by the way, sitting and looking at each of my kids and saying, we actually need to have a tough conversation right now. And then having, different people disclose to us, and it's not shying away from that. It's so much easier to say, it's all okay, it's all positive, but we become better humans. Our hearts are changed. The hard, the dirty, the broken is where we change. If we keep it on the surface, if we keep it easy, we don't change, and we're not better, and we don't show up for people, as I would say, like Christ would.
Yep. And to me, that's where you move from duty to love.
Yes.
Even though you almost have to get your heart broken.
Absolutely.
To get to that point. And then you look around at your kids and your husband, and you have this shared brokenness with other people that no longer feel like strangers. Mm-hmm. And that's the life.
And it's not a project. Like, we're always looking for the next project. And it's like, it's actually not about the project, right? It's about an issue. Mm-hmm. It's about something like that. Absolutely.
So beautiful.
So the next step that I go to, okay, so we've talked about, do I value this? And if I don't, what can I do? Where can I get there? What am I passionate about? And I would say, even in that curiosity, let that continue to work. And like you said, experiment with it. Not, you're going to bring your kids as often as you can. Sometimes you'll bring girlfriends, bring others along with you, engage with others and see what they're doing. But if it's not what you're passionate about, if someone said, Kristin, there is this cat shelter in Holiday, Utah, will you please help? It's like, I don't like cats. I'm allergic to cats, no. So you don't have to follow every single thing that other people are doing. I'm so glad that there are women out there working on unified sports. I am so grateful there are women out there working on different things. That's never going to be what I'm doing. To say I'm not passionate about this is just as important as saying I am passionate about this. So the next thing that I talk about is coming up with a strengths and resource inventory. And I think this helps us as women. Sometimes we look and say, well, Lizzy has a podcast, and my friend Brittany just did a big fundraiser, and Julia hosts these lunches with 100 women. I just can't do that. I hope you're not. I hope you're doing it in your own unique way. And so sitting down and writing down these are my strengths, and here are resources that I have access to. I remember back in 2020 when people were putting up black squares, right, with Black Lives Matter and race relations, and on Instagram was full of these black squares. And I sat there and I'm like, I actually uniquely care about this. I work with a lot of populations of color here in Utah. I have family of color. Like, I uniquely care about this. Is a white woman in Holiday, Utah, like suburban housewife, the right woman to do this? No. But I wrote, this is the first time I took a strengths and resource inventory. And I said, I know people of color in Utah that would want to share their story. I have a backyard. I could rent chairs. I literally wrote down what makes me uniquely capable and have strengths to do this. And that entire summer, I hosted panels around race in my backyard. And we brought in high schoolers of color that spoke to other high school athletes and said, it hurts so bad when you guys say this and we're joking around. I brought in influencers who said, I'm putting up a black square, but I don't know what else to do. And we had friends of color speak to them. I had no right to do that. The only thing that gave me permission was that I wrote down, I have a backyard that fits people. I know a gospel choir, and said, well, if not me, who? And so it doesn't have to be a backyard that fits people. It can be, I have an awesome park by my house. I have a family room that fits 8 people, and I could bring in women that we could talk about something that's going on with our teens. I think as women, we often focus on our weaknesses and the strengths of others. So we're like, well, I could have given you 1,000 reasons that I was the wrong woman to host race relation panels in my backyard. And I was, but I had 12 that were good. And I went with that. And what I would say makes me uniquely interesting is I don't pay attention to my weaknesses. I'm not comparing myself to you. You have so many good qualities that I don't have, but I am constantly working on my strengths, and I'm building on them, and I'm building on them, and I'm building on them. And so when I look and say, this is what I'm good at, I'm not going to do the cat shelter. I'm probably not going to handle the accounting for that nonprofit that really needs help with finances, but I can throw a lunch. I can host a party. That is where I do better. I show up more authentically, and using my strengths and then building on them makes me have more impact than I ever could trying to do it like everyone else or looking at my weaknesses, trying to make those better.
Such a huge tip for women listening in. One, when you compare, it brings you down. You focus on all the areas you can't make impact.
Yeah.
I think it also creates a division with you and the woman you're comparing yourself to. You no longer feel like, oh, this is my partner. We could do something together because she can do this, I can do that. And together we could do something amazing. Instead, it's like, oh yeah, she's this woman who I'm not like, so maybe I don't even feel like I like her anymore. And that's being able to say like, and it's taken me age for that. When I was younger, I was like, I think I should develop all the things in myself to have strengths everywhere. Yeah. The older I am, I'm like, thank heaven she's good at that. Because if someone wasn't, I couldn't do the thing that I do. And when she does what she does, and when I do what I do, we change the world. That's how networks work. And thank heavens for her, because I will never be good at that, sadly. But it's okay.
Absolutely.
Because I can do what I can do.
Absolutely. I think we think our small stuff and we look at other people's big stuff. And so I think saying we are all trying our best. And I love your whole network idea and that web that we create that. And you mentioned, I'm so glad someone's teaching my child so that I can do this. And that's exactly right. We are not all uniquely capable or called to be doing everything. And I think if we do that, we end up actually not being impactful for anyone. I have a really fun story of my sister who lives in LA. She's a dance instructor. She's owned a dance studio. She's just the best. She has the best energy. She goes to a non-denominational church right in the heart of LA and signed up, as duty to go to this shelter where they were all pregnant women at this shelter in LA. And she showed up and they said, okay, you're in charge of folding blankets. And so she starts folding blankets, and an hour later, she's still folding blankets, and she's looking around and she's seeing all of these women who are pregnant living in this homeless shelter. And she goes, why am I folding blankets? Like, am I working towards my strength? Am I working in what God has created me to be? So she walks over to the woman working at the front desk and she said, do you know what these women need? And the lady's like, no. And she said, they need to move their bodies. They need to dance. So my sister now in the heart of LA at this women's shelter with all of these pregnant women is teaching maternal dance classes. My sister Tiffany should not be folding blankets at the shelter. she should be helping these women move their body. Sometimes we have to give ourselves a permission to say, I actually have an idea. I actually have a way that I can step up and make more impact than how you have called me. And I actually think that we need to do that. I sat on, like 10 nonprofit boards. And a couple of years ago, I looked around and I thought, I am the worst board member. Like I literally show up they're like in the evenings, I have kids. I don't show up. And I thought before I was like really helpful for these nonprofits. And I looked around and I thought, and within 1 week, I dropped every single board seat. And I told them, I am dropping your board because I'm a terrible board member. I've realized I'm not working towards my strengths and I'm actually doing a disservice for you. But please call me for special projects. I am an incredible special projects woman. I can come in, I can host a lunch, I can rally the troops, I can do a service project. I have been, I would say, more impactful for these nonprofits coming in on special projects than how they called me to sit on their board. I do think sometimes we need to step outside of the box and say, how can I actually make impact in my own unique way? That is what we're called to do.
So good. And don't be scared to throw yourself out there. They may not actually need that thing, but advocate for yourself to give the best of yourself to those projects. Ooh, I love that.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. So the next thing that I realized was that I was wanting everyone to come to my stuff, right? Come do this with me. Come do this with me. And then I looked around and I thought, oh my gosh, I have this incredible friend who is working on bike trails in South Jordan, Utah, mountain bike trails. I have this incredible friend who is advocating for hearing aids for her child because children's hearing aids are not covered by insurance. And I thought, wait, we all actually have different giving personalities. And I remember I was actually on a flight and when I had this like aha moment of, wait, we all have different giving personalities. I Googled, of course, that's what we do, giving personalities. And everything was around how do we give money? And I thought, no, that's not what I'm looking for. I actually don't care how people give money or if they give money. I care how they give to make impact. And so I came up with these 9 different giving personalities. And I think it gives women and humans the freedom to say, oh, that's why I'm not like her and I don't make impact like her. It's because I have a different giving personality. There's so many personality tests out there, right? Mm-hmm. But this one is, I make impact in a different way. So one was an infrastructure enhancer, which is someone that's working on trails, working on community centers, working on, local things. They sit on a community council or they uniquely care about their park, but they're really around infrastructure and structure. And I thought, that's my friend in South Jordan who's working on these trails. I will never be doing that. But thank goodness they are. Change agent is this woman who's working through policy on kids' hearing aids or the policy project. I look at our friend Emily Bell McCormick and she only sees change, mass, big change. She's like, I don't care about showing up to get winter coats. I want to make sure the state never needs winter coats again. So her giving personality is this change agent. I look at people who are kindness spreaders, which I don't do a good job at because sometimes I'm trying to change things for the world or, feed the 5,000. And I have a friend named Jane Clayton that you may know. And I mentioned her because we were sitting at a lunch, just a little girlfriend lunch, probably 6 or 8 of us. And we had sat there a month prior for a birthday. And one woman said, Jane, thank you so much for that text after our last lunch. Like you really saw that I was having a hard time and your text meant so much to me. 2 other women said to Jane, you did that to me too. It meant the world. Thank you so much. Jane and I were the last to leave the lunch in my backyard. And I turned to her and I said, Jane, I miss all of that. You are a kindness spreader. You have this quieter way of doing good, going about lifting women that I miss because I'm so worried about the hundreds of women that I'm bringing to my event. We need people like Jane, right? Without them, where would we be? Where would that personal connection, relationship building come from? And then there's a lot of other ones. And I have a quiz actually that maybe we can link or something like that.
I'd love to link that.
where we each make impact in our own way. And then one, as you mentioned at the very beginning, the last one that I had, because you have to put it in there for mom and women, is flexible servant. I'm a flexible servant right now. Things are tough. I'm tired, or I don't have the bandwidth to give. And so I will show up how I can. But I think acknowledging she does it different than me. And thank goodness she does. And it was actually, hopefully Jane doesn't care, but she texted me the other day because I shared this in front of some other women. And she said, thank you for seeing me. And I think sometimes someone like me, I'm loud, I'm out there, I have 300 women, as many events as I can get them to. Maybe sometimes we get a little bit more attention, or like, thanks for doing good. There's so many women out there doing that small act of service that is as important, maybe more than these big things that we can do. But it has allowed women to see themselves, to say, that's why I don't show up like Lizzy or like Kristin or like Emily. I show up in my own way because this is how I do it. And it's been beautiful to see that. As women, we don't need permission, but sometimes we feel like we do.
I'm so grateful you have these personalities. I have so many women in my life like you who are like, but what I do doesn't matter, or it's not big. And I think it is so validating to say, no, every one of these things is as important. The scale that we think that it's like, well, if it's 1 million people, it matters more than a one.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
It doesn't.
I had a conversation with a friend the other day, and we were talking about the concept of influencers. And my belief is that there's some people who are the voices, and, they have their giving personalities of making a change agent or speaking something that many listen to.
Yeah. So that's a truth seeker. I think you're a truth seeker. Like, you're sharing stories, but yes, exactly.
And then I think from there, the real work happens when someone hears that and then does the boots on the ground service. Like that service doesn't actually yet change anyone. It calls someone else to action to go change something. So the people who are the boots on the ground are like, but I didn't talk to 5,000 people. It's like, yes, but you did the work that matters most.
Yes.
You are the one who did the thing that person was trying to share. Otherwise, no work got done. Everyone just had great ideas, and that's great.
Yeah.
Once you go to work. And so please don't, I think anyone listening, again, if you still have anything in your mind saying, but I'm not Kristin, so it's really not going to make a difference. Know that what you're doing is the thing that matters.
So I look at our friend Julia, who is a perfect example of what we're talking about. And she came to me and said, will you speak at this lunch and learn? And she said, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to help, but I know how to throw a lunch. So now she does these lunch and learns, every month, and women come and learn and are inspired. And what if she had said, but I don't have a podcast. I don't speak to 1,000 people. And I will tell you, I was trying to fill a Ronald McDonald lunch a couple of weeks after this lunch. And I reached out to Julia. She said, I can't be there. I'm so sorry. And I said, but you gave me 8 women's names who uniquely cared about kids being in the hospital, who had a personal story. They were there at lunch with me in tears, signing up, showing up. That Julia just passed some names along to me or hosted a lunch. The ripple effects that I will get emotional is absolutely incredible. And I think one little dot can feel so little, but it actually is so massive. She will never know by whether that's a lunch that someone took this and ran with it, or a woman sitting at the table at Ronald McDonald House in Lehigh saying, this is something that I care about. I'm passionate about this. It uniquely affects me. Like, this is my way I can give back. She will have no idea. We never know what we're doing, how we show up, how we use our voices, how we invite will change the world. And it does every single day.
I have a shared love for Julia. She knows this. She has been such a beautiful friend for me. And we sometimes call each other like yin yang friends. Because it's like, and I would encourage women to find women like that as well, who are your complement and opposite. And as long as you don't compare yourself with each other, those women are the friends who are like, ooh, like you said, we could do something really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Because we have that complementary skill.
I love that. I look at so many of my friends or family members that are a mentor teacher personality, and it's more one-on-one. It's more proximate. Maybe you're not mentoring a teen, but it's one-on-one. And my dad is such a fun example of this. And if you've met my dad, he has more personality than I do, which Says a lot, as loud as I am. So growing up in high school, he was always mentoring kids in my high school. And I remember Dan Hyman brought his senior year. And by the way, of course, Dan Hyman is killing it in life because my dad mentored him. He brought my dad a trophy and was like best mentor ever. And I remember that I thought my dad did that all the time. So just on Saturday, I have to share this with you because my dad is not one that's going to bring 100 people together. But he mentors and he teaches. And just on Saturday, my mom texted the family chat and said, "Oh, your dad. We're at All Star Donuts in Walnut Creek, California." And the Chinese owner turns to my dad, "Hey, how are you doing?" You know, my dad gets a lot of donuts. And he said, "Not good, Doug. I'm not doing good. And how are you?" And my dad said, "I'm great. I'm doing great." He said, What do you do, Doug? Do you walk? Do you move your body? Like, I'm depressed." So it's this owner of this donut shop. And my dad says, "Get back here from around the corner." He pulls him around the counter of the donut shop. He's like, "You need to do jumping jacks. You need to take walks. Are you reading?" And my dad starts mentoring and teaching this Chinese donut owner. And the woman comes out, his wife comes out and says, "Doug, thank you so much for doing this. Whenever I talk to him or tell him to do this, he gives me the finger." But my mom said, "Your dad was literally coaching this man doing push-ups and sit-ups outside of his donut shop." And I thought, that is so much more important than bringing in 100 people for lunch. You know, like, so I think we need to celebrate that. We need to share those stories. We need to share the Janes and the Dougs and the, you know, and these little things because they are just as important. And I love seeing people. And then you say, "I'm a mentor teacher. I'm a kindness spreader." And then you build on that. You're not talking about your lack. You're talking about what you are. And it's just so fun to see those personalities shine through.
Oh, I mean, that's the most beautiful life. Yeah. I know what I'm good at. I know what I do. And I'm just going to go do that all day, every day. Yeah. That's a life of joy, not of duty.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think women finding confidence and humility in this is really important. One, that we are one set of hands. We can only do so much. Confidence to bring other women along with us. I don't want this to be a singular activity. Sometimes it is, and it should be, but we are only one. And when we can invite others along, and sometimes it's like, I don't want to ask them. I don't want to, they already have so much going on. I can tell you, my friend Kelly Jensen, I asked her to do something actually with us, with the Brave and Bold Collective. And I knew she had so much going on. And I knew that it was like a hard time for her. She just had a lot. But I really felt like I wanted to ask her to do it. And I reached out and I said, "Kelly, I know you have so much going on. I don't know why I'm asking you to do this." And she said, "Kristin, I am so glad you asked. I need this." Had you thought, she's just too busy. She just has too much going on, I would have missed out on such an incredible opportunity. So it is not for us to judge when we are inspired about asking others, inviting other people along with us. You'll get a lot of people that say, "No, can't do it." Our job is to extend the invitation. We just hosted this pie night in my neighborhood and not a lot of people came. And my kids are like, "What happened? Why is nobody here?" And I said, our job is to give our gift. Like, our job is to invite. Our job is not like, we can't have control over the other side. So we give our offering. And that's what I feel like you do. That's what I do. We give our offering to the world, and that's all we can do. Some things are going to hit. Some things are going to be great and some things are not. But keep going anyways. Whether you're gathering, whether you're inviting, there may be something that no one comes to. Me too, right? Like, I'm not invited to everything, and I don't always get a lot of, I just hosted a book club for, I thought, the most incredible, and not a lot of people came. And I was disappointed, but I thought, this is my offering. And I can't have control on the other side. So I think when we remember that as our offering to the world, to our friends, to our neighborhood, like, that is our job. It's not the other side of it.
I had a basketball coach, I'll bring it back to basketball, who would always, in every practice, every game, say, "You are responsible for the effort, not the outcome." Yes. And we said it all the time. And all the time for me, then it was like, then I've done my part. And then that gives the confidence to keep doing your part instead of wondering if If it's not hitting, maybe I'm off the mark. And then you start questioning what you're doing as a family or what you're doing individually.
Yeah.
And you just don't need to waste time there. That stops you from doing more. That doesn't help you. That stops you. So don't waste time.
Absolutely. And I think as we're in this era of kind of loneliness and a little bit more isolation, that we can say, I just hosted an event around gathering for women. I had almost 400 people register for it because they're all women, right? They have so many kind of obstacles in their way of no one's going to come. It's not going to hit. I'm not going to have the right food. And I said, you're right. You're going to burn the lasagna. Gather anyways. You're right. A lot of people are going to bail on your event. Me too. Gather anyways. And I think that reminder is so important, not only for ourselves, but for our kids. When our kids see that we're putting something out there, it doesn't always go as planned, but we keep going anyways. It is so powerful that for them to say, oh, I can do that too. And to show, some people may say, Lizzy always has so many people listen to her podcast. But for us to say, this gathering event, a lot of us stood up there and said, we have a lot of people cancel on us. We have some things that don't work out. So being authentic as women to say, it's not always, picture perfect is really important.
And I've seen people online, like, your life changes overnight after the 10 years that led up to that one night. It's true. It's
so true.
I think it's also so important for women to know that you don't know what the outcome is.
So true.
And having a failure may have been the best thing that led to the next thing, whether for you or your kids, or 10 people didn't show up, but one person did.
Yeah.
And that one person was the purpose of the whole event. Like, don't be so, and maybe this is the wrong word, but don't be so proud to think that what you thought the outcome was supposed to be was actually the most important outcome. Because in my life, it's like, oh, the failures were actually the time that led to the best stuff.
Yeah.
So just, again, you're responsible for the effort, and trust that whatever the outcome happens, whatever comes from it, that's the good stuff. Lean into that stuff.
Love that. That is so true. Kids working on college essays, like, we're teaching them this, like, write down your failures. These are your best lessons, but then we're not taking that in ourselves. And I think that's the same with building this intentional culture of service with your family. Like, you're going to have a lot of things at work that feel good, that feel magical. And then you're going to have some things that's like, I don't know that we'll do that again. But what I will say about building, and you are building, right? You are creating this culture of service if you value it. So, and do you value it? Come to that conclusion first. If you don't, that's okay. Maybe you make impact in a different way. But the magic is in continuing to show up. It's rarely the first time that you go do something, but I look at so many different either families we've helped or projects or whatever it may be. The magic is when we keep showing up. And I talk a lot about sticky service. And sticky service is something that's so meaningful or powerful or interesting or important to you that you continue to show up. And that's where I think the joy is found, is this is so sticky for our family because it's not just what we do, it's who we are. And either this family or this cause or this rally or this park that we clean up, I don't actually care what it is, but creating that culture of service around something that's sticky, that keeps you coming back, that's doable for your family, right? You don't always have to reach for the stars, but it's like, we just continue to show up and do this. And maybe it's visiting a neighbor. Maybe it's befriending a new family. It doesn't have to go be a big service project. And so that's why I want people to really think about, we can do it in our own way, and we should. And that's when kids will see, oh my gosh, like, that's how we make impact, not by doing it how everybody else is doing.
So then where do we go from there?
Oh, what's so cool is there are so many opportunities out there wherever you live. And what I want you to think about as this woman, if you're listening from 35 to 65 or anywhere in between or on either side, is that my hope for you and my dream for you and my goal for you and my prayer for you is that you continue to expand through change. That as change happens, kids leave, life doesn't go as planned. Instead of contracting, which we can do, which leads to a little bit more loneliness, it can lead to isolation, is that you continue to expand. It may be uncomfortable, and that's okay. For most women, it is. But I want you every day to think, how can I continue to expand rather than contract. So a great way of doing that is thinking outside of ourselves and saying, do I value making impact? Do I value either going it out alone? Maybe some of us say, I'm going to try this on my own and then bring my family in. I want to get to a good place where I feel good about this. I have a little bit more time during the day. So what am I passionate about? What do I value? Start following that. Start following nonprofits on social media. Start getting newsletters. Just start being more curious and expansive about life. And then saying, what am I passionate about? What does that look like? And it doesn't have to be one thing. It could be a couple of different things. What are my strengths and resources? By the way, you could do this as a mother. I know my strengths are not sitting on a floor, but do you know what I'm good at? Hosting friends. I'm good at scratching backs at bedtime. Write down your strengths and resources and say, how can I be the best woman, mother, person making impact, and really working towards those. You can take my quiz. What is my giving personality? Or even just look at these 9 giving personalities and say, I didn't realize that a truth seeker, sharing about the gospel, sharing about my brother's addiction problem actually is how I want to give back in this life. And then doing the next best thing, showing up, bringing other women along with you. I'm a big fan of gathering, but really saying, I'm going to try this out and I'm just going to do something. And I think we can be so influential to others watching us fail, watching us mess up, trip, and then coming back and not stopping, not letting that stop us. And what an incredible example to those around us and our families.
I had this beautiful vision when you talked about that expansion. And we can all think of women in our life at certain age points where they started contracting and life was just like fewer and fewer people. Yeah. My kids leave. Now it's just kind of me and my home, and women who do the opposite at every stage, whether it's college or young babies, that it's like, I'm just bringing more people in. And the expansion is also in you. And you know those women that fill a room when they come in and you don't even know why.
Yeah.
I mean, you are one of them. You walk in and it's like, there is something so big about this person. And I think that's what happens when you have a pattern and lifetime of pushing out.
Yeah.
You get bigger.
Yeah.
You have more to offer. You have more love to give. And I think that's why women are drawn to you, because it's like, I don't even know why you're as big as you are. Like when you walk in, why you light us all up. And everyone can be that as they seek to do the same. Where can I keep giving? And watch that happen inside your own heart, which is just beautiful. Thank you for teaching that transformation on every level to us today.
Thank you. I hope there's practical application. I hope you could sit down today and start taking some notes on some of the stuff of because women do want this. If you're like, I don't have time for this, maybe this conversation isn't for you today, but I bet it will be at some point. And I know there's a lot of women that are, and I want to end with a quote that I love so much, back to this duty, because we always will have duty as women. It just feels like that's not going to go away. But I do believe that we can shift it to joy. And it says, I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted and behold, service was joy. And that's Rabindranath Tagore.
So good. I love it. Thank you for bringing your light and your love. Those of you listening, if you feel that this is for you now and you're in a season where you can do this, stop, put aside an hour, actually put your time and set it aside and be serious about it.
Yeah.
Because this is more important than anything else. This is how life becomes joy. So thank you, Kristin, for sharing that.
Thank you so much, Lizzy.
Okay, is there anything you have coming up that you want to share with us that we can learn a little bit more about or become a part of?
Yes, I have a perfect hands-on opportunity around what we just talked about. I was thinking about a gift for my online community on Instagram, who are just these incredible women who I just love so much. And I thought, what gift can I give them that they maybe can't do themselves or aren't able to do themselves? So I have given my online community and everyone out there the 12 months of family giving. And so it is a printable. And what's fun is everything we just talked about is in the back of the printable. So it talks about sitting down with your family and talking about values and giving personalities. The quiz is actually on there. But it's 12 months of family giving. So I have set up a hands-on service project every month of the year for 2025. Because as women and as mothers, we want to do that, but it's really hard to find the time to say, where are we going to go? What are we going to do? Especially after the holidays. And I'm a big fan of showing up for the holidays and doing what we can to serve. But come February and March and June and July, these vulnerable people that we were serving over Christmas are still there and are still suffering and having a hard time. So it's a printable, it has a beautiful quote. Our friend Melanie Burke helped me with it. Each month it says, get curious. And it's, how can you learn about whether it be homelessness or, single mothers or food insecurity? And so there's a lot of things that you and your family can do to get curious about the issue that we're working on. The next thing is a hands-on service project. So we're going to go to the Midvale Family Shelter and we're going to sort clothes and we're going to serve dinner. And we have enough for a couple of hundred people, kids. All kids are invited the entire year, which is so fun. So you can bring kids of any age. And then the third is a small act of kindness. Maybe we can't show up to the shelter in February, but there is something small that we can do that a family could easily do or a single person could do. So every month I have you covered. You don't need to come up with your own thing, although I would like you to. But really try to figure out which of these speak to us? Which is the most exciting? If a family had to vote on which month we showed up for, because I realize you might not be there all 12 months, but what makes us most excited? Follow that. And so it's really fun. We'll link it so you guys have access to that. But I would love to have you join me and my family serving every single month of the year in 2025.
So fun. You just made my Christmas because I'm like, this leads our whole family into next year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
so fun.
As a mom, I would actually wrap it. And this is what I've advised on my Instagram is, if you take it seriously, your family would take it seriously. So I would print it out, I would put it in a box, and I would wrap it. I would say, kids, the greatest gift I can give you this holiday, this Christmas, is the gift of thinking outside of yourself. It's not the AirPods. It's not the watch. It is this. And my commitment to you is 3 months or 1 month. I don't know how many you'd want to commit to, but as a mom, I would say, what can we do? And by the way, I'm going to ensure we get there. I'm not going to make sure my husband does or my 16-year-old does, but this is my commitment to you and it's my gift to you. I truly believe it will be the greatest gift that you could give your kids.
So good. Okay, our family's in.
Yay! It's awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us for today's conversation with Kristin Andrus. I hope you're feeling as inspired as I am by her passion for lifting others and her belief that every single one of us has the power to create meaningful change. If you love today's episode, share it with a friend who has an impact to make and could use this conversation as fuel for their own journey. And don't forget to check out in the show notes Kristin's new initiative, 12 Months of Giving. It's an incredible way to get involved and start making a difference right where you are. Remember, your unique talents and heart are needed in this world. Let's lean in and take action together. See you next week on Lean In With Lizzy.